dogs in the yard, might need a guard. Every loss, taking to heart. Me first, that cannot be. Must be these underdog episodes, see? Feeling much better, so suddenly. Under the moniker, Monica G. Crafted at night while all of them sleep. I won't look a fool, taking this tool, defeating the opposition around me. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, I'm taking this knowledge and pride. Just barking no harm, don't be startled. Yes, I'm taking the title, and it's so vital. Thanks for the ride, I'll never be idle. Turn up the dial, it's about to get wild. And the points gon' pile up.
Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 136 Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. With me tonight, Billy Beeman, playing the intro again.
I just realized I had it on loop. Damn it, we don't have our producer here. Come on, man.
I know. You're pretty good.
What's going on? How are we going to make this work? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll get it right one of these days. One of these days, we'll get it right.
Josh is just like such a pivotal piece. Like, people don't understand. Like,
absolute pro at this stuff, man. I'm missing him greatly right now.
I'd have no idea what to do, so.
That's why there's three of us. How many heads does it take to get a podcast done?
I'd just be like, I'd call you and use like a call recorder and be like, could we get this out of here somehow? Like,
we manage all right.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So obviously this week we have tons of news because the legal tampering period went on for the previous, whatever.
Ridiculous naming. Come on with the naming convention.
Basically, free agency started 2 days ago, but officially started today. So we'll talk about these signings, and there's no way we got all of them, but I think all the major ones that affect what we do, and we'll just go through them. You guys have probably heard everyone's takes already, but you haven't heard ours, so let's get to it.
Everyone else's takes suck, man.
That's right.
That's why you're here.
Just wait for us. We got you.
Oh, geez.
All right. So one of the early ones, which I thought was kind of cool, was the Dolphins. They picked up Tua's fifth-year option. So I know like a lot of people are talking about, well, get Lamar, some other quarterback, or is Tua the guy, whatever. Well, they at least believe enough in him to pick up his fifth-year option and pretty early too in the season. So it was like there's no hesitation there. So that makes me feel like there's no hesitation in the confidence they have in Tua.
Yeah, you love to see it. I mean, obviously it's not a long-term deal, so it's not long-term security for dynasty purposes, but there was a lot of talk of Tom Brady and all the nonsense this offseason of them looking for a veteran quarterback or somebody different. So it's good to see them put their faith back into him. Mike McDaniel said, this is the guy who can run the offense the best. The only concern for him, literally the only concern for him, which is constant debate, and we go back and forth in the Discord, and Jake is very passionate about it in the Discord, and we have conversations about the concussion stuff. But that's the only issue. Can this guy stay on the field? That's it. Otherwise, I think if he has another good year, there's no question that he's the Dolphins quarterback the year after that, and he's going to get a big deal, right? If he stays healthy all year, despite the concerns we have right now, he's going to get 2 to 4 year deal, and they'll have him for a couple of years.
Yeah, and it's not like it's like some like reoccurring injury where you have like a Dalvin Cook and his shoulder issues going all the way back to college and even further. Like these are concussions. There's got to be ways where I think we even talked about. Well, I got to talk about it forever, but like he was kind of learning how to maybe fall better, things like that to help prevent concussions from happening again in the future. I don't think it's something that, he's concussion prone. I remember talking about Brandon Cooks that way maybe like 4 years ago. Because he's getting a concussion every year, and he hasn't had one in a grip. So
yeah, that's a great comp, man. Like that's exactly what happened, because I remember the conversations around Brandon Cooks. Is he going to retire? Is he even worth having on your roster? And then he goes for a couple more 1,000-yard seasons in a row, and he's okay. And I think that's a really good example, because he's a guy who had multiple serious concussions, and that's why we were concerned about him. And not that Tua can't get another one and he just says he's done, or the doctors say, you can't go back out there. Like, sure, maybe that's possible, but I think, there's there's definitely situations that have happened where show you that it's possible to overcome these kind of things in play.
Yeah, it just came to me.
No, it's a good one. Yeah. Honestly, that one's sitting there in the back of your memory. Just pull it out.
It happens. It's good. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but yeah.
Brandon Cooks.
Next one, which is kind of crazy. Johnny Smith to Atlanta, which is probably good for New England. But I mean, I guess the thing here is I don't think it matters. But I think there probably are some people who do think it matters. A very small percentage of the people we play with might think it matters. And I think this does open up another opportunity for buy low on Pitts, which I don't know if we want Pitts at this point. I don't know because we have no idea how. We have yet to see him be used in a way that like we kind of really had hoped to see him be used. But Johnny Smith's there. I don't think he's going to hinder Pitts at all, but people you play with might think that.
I'm surprised we got what we got. I would have taken a ham sandwich. Like this is, getting a 7th round pick is something considering he did absolutely nothing for us. And I think that, anybody who is concerned about Kyle Pitts because of this move shouldn't be, because that he's not good. And he's not a good pass catcher, and they don't really even play the same position. So, yeah, I mean, if there's a buy low window, then absolutely take it for sure. But yeah, Jonu's just like a nothing burger to me, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Isn't it wild? I think that Johnny was like one of the very first free agents picked up by the Patriots, the 21 season of free agency. And this time when he's a free agent again, he's one of the very first pieces moved again.
And I guess they're taking on the contract. It was a crazy contract, and I think I saw a report that the Patriots are looking at Donald Parham possibly, and that doesn't excite me. I'd rather just draft a guy. I don't really see the need to do that for a guy who isn't that great anyway, and Mac's not going to elevate him. Like Justin Herbert could elevate a guy. So
yeah,
not really for me.
All right, next one, more news, nothing actionable here yet, but I guess Eckler had reached out to the organization and is asking for a trade. I think simply put, like, we don't want that, right? For dynasty players, like, we want Eckler to be a Charger.
It's probably the best case scenario, but there's also word that they might want to draft a guy anyway and reduce his touches there a little bit. So could we get more out of him going to another team that's going to utilize him in the role he is here and as a workhorse? I don't know exactly if there's that many places, but I don't know. Like if Denver would be a good spot if Javonte Williams isn't healthy, or if someplace like that. But sorry, I just got distracted. Eckler. Oh, what I was going to say is, do you hate him? Because I sent you a trade, and I don't know why you wouldn't want Eckler. Like, what's wrong with him?
I forget what it was, but it wasn't something I was interested in.
It was for like Swift in a second.
Something like that. It's like, well, I remember what I looked at. I looked at it, and I was like, okay, he wants a pick back on my side. I'm looking at like actually a pick back on my side. So I was like, I'm not even messing with him.
With David Montgomery, I mean, we're going to talk about all this, but
okay, Swift is what? All right, 25, 4, 5. Eckler's old. I'm not giving you a pick back on top of that. Get out of here. I don't even know what's going on with.
He's not. He might not even be the lead back on his team. Like we know Eckler will be, right? You don't want to win. You don't like winning. I get it. You don't like winning. No, that makes sense.
Hey, we could revisit it. But I'm not giving you like the 205 or something you wanted back. No.
Okay.
It's okay. I like the offer though. I appreciate it. It's nice to wake
up. Oh, for sure. No, that's
All right, another one that's cool because I don't know. Just one of those guys I always root for. Rashad Penny went to Philly. 1-year deal.
I like this one.
With that said, big if, it's the whole problem with him so far is if he could stay healthy or battle through injuries, which listening to the local media here in Seattle, I think that's more of his problem, just learning to understand that like you're a running back, you're not always going to be 100% healthy. Just get out there. Because that's the time he spent with like Adrian Peterson, right? He had Adrian Peterson there for like part of a season. And I think that's when he finished that season with like some of the best 5 games we've seen from a running back in a while. That said, as Penny stays healthy with the offensive line and that offense, I think he's going to be a really good piece there. I just don't know if he's going to stay healthy. I think this is pretty good. sell opportunity for Penny, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I actually put a tweet out when this came out immediately, and I was like, perfect time to sell him. I'd take like a second for him right now. I mean, this is a guy I almost don't understand. This is a guy who was on your roster and he was worth 0 yesterday, and now he's worth a second or more.
Mm-hmm.
Just take it and run. Like, he's such a volatile asset. It's worth re-rolling the dice, just getting a pick that's liquid right now and turning it either into a player that you prefer or into a younger player that has more upside and longevity, right? Like, I understand the upside with Penny, and he's going to a team that was just in the Super Bowl, right? So it's like, he's gonna be he's gonna be he's gonna be awesome, right? Like, he's gonna get a bunch of touchdowns. They're always scoring. Okay, but now we're all of a sudden ignoring what we've been talking about with Miles Sanders this whole time, which is his touchdown upside is hurt by Hurts scoring on the goal line all the time, right? So any running back there is going to have that issue, and I think at best you're looking at him going into the Miles Sanders role, right? And at worst, it's going to be a committee where they add a guy in the draft or they add another guy in free agency. I mean, they paid him like $1 million this year. He is not an asset that I think is stable at all or that I want to bet on. I mean, if you're a contender and he's like helping you, maybe, but I'd honestly rather just re-roll it no matter what. Doesn't matter if I'm a contender or not.
Yeah, it's good that you bring that up because it's the player situation more likely that I'd say, well, just wait till the season's going in and he's scoring points and you could get more for him. But he's so volatile when it comes to injuries. Like, I know the whole injury prone thing is kind of blown out of there, and he could be healthy for the next 4 seasons. I don't know. But literally a year ago, we're exact same conversation with him coming off that really good season. If he signs with Seattle again, boom, to the moon, you should sell the guy because he was drafted 4 years ago and it's been worth nothing the whole time. He was out there on waivers for the most part. But you held on to him. You held on to the summer. After they drafted Kenneth Walker, and you're like, well, he is a rookie. Maybe, it's
right.
Penny will be the 1A. And then you get to, week 1 and it's Penny's worth 0 again. Okay, well, now there's life again. His value might be back up. If you didn't catch the memo the first time around, now is the time to go ahead and just cash out for kind of whatever you can.
Yep, I agree.
That's my advice.
They like Kenny Gainwell. They're going to add somebody else, in my opinion.
They brought back Carson Scott.
Yeah, it's not going to be him. They like all these guys, and I mean, you just got to hope and pray he stays healthy. Like, that's, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to bet on that. Yeah.
All right, so we have McDaniel there in Las Vegas, just totally destroying that team, pissing everyone off, which is probably the best way you could do it. I think Gruden would be stoked. Gruden did the same thing, didn't he? And they went ahead and sent Darren Waller over to the Giants.
I mean, I don't know. Like, from a real life football perspective, I don't hate it because, like, he's older. They got a 3rd round pick, which is not bad.
Yeah.
So I don't hate it from that perspective. Obviously, they're losing a weapon, but they also added another weapon. Is all this on our list? I imagine it is. No, we don't have Myers on here, right? So they added Myers as well, right? So we could talk about that in the same breath. So I don't think they're just completely, like, I hear this all the time. Do we have Jimmy Garoppolo on this list too? So Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Myers both, right? They added them, and yes, they're getting rid of Waller, but so I think they're okay in that respect. But I think for the Giants, like, it's nice to see them trying to get weapons for Daniel Jones, right? Like, that's like, if you're a Daniel Jones pitcher, you want to see that, and this is definitely a step in doing that. You hope that they draft some guys, maybe hit another one free agency or something. But yeah, that's what I think about it. I'm not, like, at this point, Waller just often injured, 31 years old. I want out on this asset. If this breathes life into him, I'd like to move him for plus if I can somehow. I don't know exactly what that looks like, though. Got to think about that.
There's times earlier in this last season where, I had acquired Waller probably about this time last year. And the way he started off the season with injuries and stuff, like, I'm like, I am not going to be able to get anything for this guy. I'm going to be stuck with Waller. Now I feel like, okay, here's my shot again. I could probably try to move on from him. I'm really not banking on him being, a top 10 tight end there in New York. We'll see. Definitely one of the best athletes and pass catchers that Daniel Jones has had in a while, but it still doesn't make me too excited, I guess. Foster Moreau too. So Las Vegas, the Raiders behind Darren Waller, as most of you guys already know, Foster Moreau is the backup. Foster Moreau is still out there in free agency, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on what they're going to do at that position in the first place.
I mean, I think a lot of teams like are looking at this tight end class and are just like, we'll just get one here right now because, you know, they're going to be serviceable at the very least, and maybe some of them have upside. I'd imagine that's what they're kind of doing. I was just thinking in my head, like a trade to make right now, maybe like somebody who has Chig Okonkwo, you could maybe trade Waller for him in like a third or something like that. Maybe you can get that done and, you know, just move over to something younger and get capital on top. I don't know if that would work, but I think something like that would work.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of, well, not surprisingly, but
here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be a Jet. One of the biggest clues to that was the fact that Allen Lazard signed a deal with the Jets, a pretty lucrative deal with the Jets. I don't really care about Allen Lazard, never have. And he's going to the Jets where he's going to be playing with two other wide receivers who are better than him. But he's there, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. So Aaron Rodgers is going to have the trio of Allen Lazard, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson to throw to.
Hey, but by the end of free agency, he might have, who knows? He might have Greg Jennings back there. He might have his
Mercedes
whole crew
Lewis
back in the league. But yeah, Rodgers actually, I don't know if you saw him on or you saw any of the news, but he was on Pat McAfee.
No, I was working today. I couldn't watch that.
Yeah, he said I was working today too, and I watched that. He said like I told them I want to be a Jet, and they're just working it out. And he essentially said that the Packers are holding their feet to the fire. And so, yeah, I mean, they're probably going to make him pay. But, yeah, that seems like what it's going to be. So, Allen Lazard to the Jets, I don't know. It's probably going to breathe some life in him, too. I'd like to move on from Allen Lazard. So, I don't know if many takers are, you know, if they're going to be many takers. But, man, would you take a third-round pick for him, like an early third?
Yeah, maybe.
Right. So I think that's probably the move is just get out now because he's probably going to be worth nothing. It's Garrett Wilson. And if they're going to keep Elijah Moore, which it seems like, I mean, they could definitely trade him and maybe it is Allen Lazard as the number 2, but still we've seen him in an offense where other guys kind of take over and he's not great. So
he's okay. But he's just okay.
He's a good football player. He's just okay.
All right, the next one, pretty shocking. I mean, at least I was like, this makes no sense to me. But David Montgomery, which I really thought he'd be back in Chicago. I
did too. I talked a lot about that.
But David Montgomery gets sent over to Detroit. Mm-hmm. So what do you do if you have a dynasty team where, like, I don't know, maybe your top 2 running backs are Swift and Montgomery? You
sell me DeAndre Swift. That's what you do. What's funny is in two of the DU leagues, one of them is your team that you have Montgomery and Swift. Somebody else also has Montgomery and Swift on their team. I just happened to run by their team when I was trying to make trades, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how crazy is that? But I honestly, for me, like, I think it's a pretty good situation for both guys because we've seen what DeAndre Swift can be. It's not ideal, obviously, but in a 1-2 punch, he's been okay when he's on the field. If he's healthy, he can be pretty efficient and get you fantasy points. Now he's not, he's going to be a running back too at best if in this situation, but it's not the worst, I don't think. And for Montgomery, it's actually not bad at all in my opinion, because if he's playing the Jamal Williams role, he's going to have a ton of touchdowns again. And this team wants to run the ball, right? So yeah, I think Montgomery honestly is probably the better fantasy asset because he's going to score more touchdowns, most likely.
I think so too.
But for me, I'm buying into Swift. Obviously, I'm trying to buy Swift a little low right now. I just think he's young, has a ton of talent, and I kind of just want to buy into that talent at the running back position at a low cost. You know what I mean? When you don't have to pay that much, it's probably the best time to buy them.
Yeah. And I think, it doesn't really seem like it because of how good of a year that Jamal Williams had, but Swift still outscored him, on the year. So
Yeah. Yep.
season final score. But okay, Sam Darnold to San Francisco. Let's talk about the San Francisco quarterbacks again.
Always, this is like a evergreen topic.
I don't even know what I think of it. I think they just a camp arm a guy. Do they expect him there just in case the other two aren't ready? Both got injured. Lance got injured. Purdy got injured.
What if he's better than both of them? Like, as bad as that sounds, but we always talk about how, not we, but like in general, the community talks about how any quarterback in the Shanahan offense can work. Yeah. Well, I mean, Sam Darnold is as high pedigree prospect as anybody really on that team, right? Higher than Brock Purdy for sure. And then despite, them taking Trey Lance at 3 overall, I think that he was every bit of quarterback prospect before he came into the league that Trey Lance was, if not much better, despite the not having the same ability, right? So I think that there's a real possibility that he comes in here and takes the job. Now, like, am I buying into Sam Darnold? No, I'm not, because his value probably went up, but it would be worth maybe sending out a couple like 3rd-round picks for him, because it is probably worth a 3rd-round pick if he could just end up being the guy. Like, I really think there's a real possibility he ends up being good in that system, right? Like, you have to put that in your mind as a real possibility, despite him sucking everywhere he's been. It's been not ideal situations anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about this. Like, that is the best landing spot he's ever been.
They have all the pieces. Why can't he be every bit as good as Brock Purdy, right? Let's at least that.
Let's be honest.
Forget Trey Lance,
better than
right?
Brock Purdy.
He'll probably be that good in camp, right? So
I would think so.
If Trey Lance can't elevate, now I saw Trey Lance talking, it made me like him a little bit more, like maybe kind of believe that, he's got the work ethic, so maybe he can do it. But I think there's a real possibility Sam Darnold looks good, and they have a battle there, Yeah. So maybe worth buying into if people aren't like, give me a 2nd-round pick for the San Francisco 49ers starting quarterback. Like, yeah, I'm not there. That's for sure.
I like that. I hadn't even thought about it, but yeah, that is. I was just trying to think of like, when I saw it, I thought of like the quarterback going there. I'm like, what? But if I think about, okay, this place for the quarterback, if that makes any sense, like, well, that's a really good deal. Like, this is really, really good for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and it's cheap.
You got me thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a really interesting situation there. And also, you talk about like depth on that team. Like, they don't have depth really with a broken Purdy and an unknown in Lance. It's like it's just all up in the air, despite how well their season ended. So I don't know.
Yeah, you got to give it to Darnold. He's healthy.
Yep, there is that.
Ever since that one case of mono he had that one year.
He does have that going for him. He's healthy.
That helps.
Big plus for Darnold.
Hayden Hurst. So Hurst, I actually traded for him. I think we talked about it. I gave like a 309 for Hurst. Kind of hoping he'd be back in Cincinnati, but it is what it is. He did get shipped over to Carolina. Carolina owns the 1st pick in the draft, likely taking CJ Stroud if they don't move down. This is good. I don't know if there's a whole lot of truth to it, but it seems like everyone talks about the what's that word? Just having someone that he could dump down to, having a tight end he could trust.
And security blanket.
That's the word. Thank you. I got blanket.
I got you.
Whew. And so he's got a really, really good tight end there that he should be able to lean on early on in his career for a rookie quarterback. So I like it.
I mean, you literally took it right out of my head. That's kind of what I was thinking too, because they got rid of DJ Moore. They're gonna add weapons and all that, but this is a former 1st-round pick, a guy who's on a team that went to the Super Bowl, went far in the playoffs. Like, this is a really, really valuable piece for a young quarterback, a veteran who he can rely on, right? Like you said, a security blanket. So I actually love this for him, because he's probably going to be a top 2 target getter on his team next year.
Yes.
Right? Like, let's be honest. And that's what you want from guys who have upside. He doesn't have top 5 upside. And maybe he does actually get there, because tight end is ridiculous. But I think you're thinking he has like super stable top like 7-8 upside, probably just because of the volume alone, unless they'd like do some wild shit and add like a whole ton of players. But I don't even think it's possible for them to really do that this year.
No, I mean, there's really nobody left in free agency to do it. And the wide receiver market is,
but they don't have that many picks to like, and I think they have a lot of holes to fill that it's not just going to be, they'll add a wide receiver 100%. But
cool. Well, staying with Carolina, this is recent news. Miles Sanders, wondering where he'd go. He went to Carolina. They gave him a 4-year deal.
yeah, I
I know
mean,
that
you can't hate it for him.
Yeah, one of the front office members was there in Philadelphia anyway when they selected Miles Sanders, so I think that kind of helps.
I did see that come across the ticker, yeah.
Yep. But is there? I mean, honestly, we don't know what this Carolina team's going to look like, but we could only assume it's going to be getting better than what it kind of was the last few years, with pretty terrible coaching decisions, GM decisions, and contracts for that matter, and just the way they've kind of ran through the quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker from time to time. It's just really Carolina has not been one of those organizations where you're looking at like, oh, they know what they're doing. Like never once has anyone like, well, that was a really good move. But they're bringing in Miles Sanders, and I think
boom, roasted.
I'm sorry. I think this is a better spot for Miles Sanders than even Philly. And then I'm saying that Carolina is a better team at all. Philly's much, much better. But I think for a player like Miles Sanders, I think he's going to have a lot more opportunities to just showcase the talent he has. I don't think Miles Sanders is like this otherworldly running back, but I think he's good enough, and I think he still has tread on those tires, just because he hasn't really been used a whole ton. So I really like the signing spot for him.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you here. I've never been a big fan of Miles Sanders, but I think he got a 4-year deal. I didn't see the details. I'm sure there's an out in 2 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. But regardless, like a little bit of investment into him. And yeah, again, kind of the same thing with Hurts. Like there's just not much competition for him here. And it's a good situation for fantasy as far as volume goes. Now, like I'm not going to buy into him no matter what, because I've never believed in him. But if you have him, like it's if you believe in him, great. Like you probably just hold and see what happens. If not, if you have him, I would try to sell and see what I can get for him. You could probably get a couple seconds or something like that. Like I would definitely do that kind of thing. But yeah, as good a landing spot as you can hope for Miles Sanders, I think. Before we move on, sorry.
Go for it.
I just saw Matt replied on the stream on Twitter. He said, "I have Montgomery and Swift," with a sad face.
Oh, me and Matt should join a support group or something.
Jeez, comment on the stream next time. No, hilarious though. That is amazing. That's amazing. I love it.
We could swap out the quarterbacks. I'll send you my RB3. You could send me your RB3, and then we could swap Monty and Swift or something. Figure something out.
This all sounds awful.
All right, next one, fan favorite Jamal Williams, guy we've talked about quite a bit, just because of the awesome season he had. His character, really, kind of, in my opinion, was kind of like, I don't want to say the mascot of the team, but like definitely a face of the franchise that like I think everybody just enjoys. Really thought that he would end up back in Detroit, but he's off to New Orleans.
Yeah, he's like a team ambassador, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, ambassador, right?
Big community guy. Yeah, you'd think that they'd try to hold on to that kind of player, but I think he did outproduce his, not talent, but I don't know what to call it, but just his normal production. Let's say. I don't think that that's what he can do on a regular basis or will do going forward. He's a little bit older. They were able to go replace him with David Montgomery. I think they were happy to kind of be able to do that and just get younger at the position. So, I mean, for him in New Orleans, like with Alvin Kamara not being there, it's great. Like you gotta love it if you have him. Like there's not really much else to be said. I would move on from him because again, he's going to be a guy whose value declines pretty quick. So this is a good time to do that maybe. Or you could hold on to him getting closer to the season. There's plenty of time where his value won't decline right now, but it's going to be quick, I think. So, yeah.
All right. This other one is not so much about the player, but the other player he's going to be playing with. But Travis Homer, running back, Seattle.
Yeah.
He went to Chicago. So Chicago ships off Montgomery. They bring in Travis Homer. I don't know what that means for Khalil Herbert or any of them. I have no idea. Like Khalil Herbert, he could be a 3-down back there. He could be, right? We've seen it. He's been pretty good. Travis Homer is pretty good on special teams for Seattle. I don't know. Something tells me they're not done at the running back position, but I guess we'll see.
I mean, it's interesting. Chicago paid Travis Homer more than Philly paid Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't
know.
know what that means exactly. But for Khalil Herbert, I said this as well on Twitter, but they're going to add somebody and I said this before Travis Homer, which is ridiculous because between the time David Montgomery got sent off and between the time Travis Homer got signed was like an hour. And
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
I said, they're inevitably going to sign somebody, and I wasn't expecting it to be Homer necessarily, but I think this is just the beginning of what they're going to do. They're going to draft somebody or sign somebody. I think they're going to do both. They're going to definitely draft a guy, and it's going to impact Herbert. So if you can get out of him, I definitely would. Second round picks all day, please, and I'll move on. But you could probably go higher than that. You could probably add him to deals and get up to a much, more stable asset. Sorry.
Yeah, probably. You're probably right. Last one here. I know, man. I know there's ones I've missed, but this is basically it. So, Samaje Perine to Denver. Now, this one, it doesn't seem like much because it's not like a big household name, but we've seen what Perine could do when Mixon was missing time, and a very good 3-down skill set. He's great hands, and Denver, they don't really have anybody there besides Javonte, and we don't really have a lot of clarity on Javonte's health yet. Nothing's been done. Like, we don't know. Like, the reports you read from Matthew Berry and other people saying it might be a little bit worse than we've heard, but so far there hasn't been any good news about Javonte. You know what I mean? I haven't seen anything like, oh man, look at this guy. He's out here he's getting getting it. But so I think Perine might have a bigger role there than we think, at least early on. Now, of course, free agency is not over. The NFL draft hasn't come and gone yet. We don't know what they're going to do to add other players. But right now, if we're starting the season tomorrow, I would rather be rostering Perine over, Travis Homer, right? He might have a bigger role there than we think. Or am I crazy?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that with running backs in general, like, they aren't super valuable. Like, again, I've talked about it moving on from a lot of these guys, but I think they can move on from Perine quickly is my point. But I do think that he's proven that he can not be a workhorse, but he can play a lot, right? Like with the Bengals, like he proved that he can run the ball and he can catch the ball. Bottom line, like, he's in the past been just a receiver, but he ran the ball every bit as effectively as Joe Mixon did in that offense, actually a little bit more effectively. Not saying he's a better running back than Joe Mixon, but that's just the truth. It just is. So I think that in this offense with Javonte Williams concerns, he's probably going to get the lion's share of the carries or the touches. Does that mean he gets 10 touches a game, which isn't like a ton? I think it means he probably gets between 10 and 15 touches, and that's a pretty valuable piece for a while. I don't know exactly how long that'll be, because if Javonte comes back, then obviously he'll take over. But I like Perine as a little dynasty asset for a flex spot fill in. I've always loved him as that piece. He's never gotten the market value that he deserves, so he's really only worth holding, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, I think we covered pretty much all the fantasy relevant signings. I think we talked about Derek Carr to New Orleans, Jimmy G to San Francisco, to the Raiders. Rodgers will probably be a Jet. I don't think we really missed anything. Zeke Elliott got released today. I don't know, what that really does for anything. Pollard is still injured. I don't know. I mean, they might add somebody in the draft, so I don't really know if that Zeke news is huge right now. I'm still trying to process it. I'm a Cowboys fan, so like I have a sense of loss. That's some mourning. Yeah, I'm going through the stages, and then maybe I'll have some more analysis.
5 stages of grief. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what stage I'm in right now, but I'm just watching.
I think it's stage 1. It's pretty early. It's this. We're not.
I'm just watching like Zeke highlights. I'm like, man, he was good.
Was
very good. That's okay.
I mean, we did brush over Jacoby and Jimmy G
Yeah.
to Vegas. How do you feel about Jacoby there? Oh, I actually have another one, but go ahead. How do you feel about Jacoby?
I think it's fine. I like Jacoby as a player, so I'm glad to see him go somewhere and actually, get. There were times where people were wondering if Jacoby would even, end up staying on the roster, and he just kept grinding it out there. Maybe it's because of lack of talent acquisition or whatever the hell it's been going on in New England for a little while now. Sorry.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
But Jacoby's been the guy there, I mean, at least the best wide receiver that they've had in the last few years. So I'm just glad to see him go out and get a second contract and honestly be at the top of the list of the free agent acquisition wide receivers. Like, he earned that, so I'm happy for him. Dynasty, fantasy, whatever. I mean, it's whatever. Is Jimmy G's probably an upgrade to Mac Jones, but I don't know how much.
Absolutely.
I don't know that offense. Like, I don't know. It's whatever. What does this do for Renfro?
It kills his value, I think. I mean,
yeah.
It's Jimmy G is a good passer, but he's never been a volume passer, really.
No.
So I think that it's going to be largely Adams and Jacoby and Josh Jacobs. Maybe they get in. I mean, Renfro probably falls in behind those guys, but it's not really what you want for a fantasy asset.
Yeah.
But I think this is good for Jacoby. I definitely think this is good for Jacoby. It's a really good landing spot. It's, I think that it's a system he's going to be familiar with. So hop right in and get going. And for Adams, it honestly does open up the field a little bit more for him. I think they do have to pay attention to Jacoby more than you had to pay attention to a guy like Renfro or something like that. Now they did lose Waller, so that'll impact things a little bit. But in talking about this, we did skip over Juju Smith-Schuster got signed to the New England Patriots to replace Jacoby Myers. They paid him the same deal, and I think he can earn up to $1 million more than Jacoby can, like 22 versus 21. I don't know. I think Jacoby's is guaranteed. I think Juju's he has to earn it in some capacity, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like I do think Juju is a bit of a better player.
Yes.
More upside than Jacoby. I've always said that Jacoby doesn't really have wide receiver one upside. Juju may have that in him. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? You feel better with Mac? You feel good with Juju? What do you think?
Yeah, okay, so we should have a segment. Pick your stack. And I would pick Mac and Juju over Jimmy G and Jacoby.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if man, that's tough. That's a good one.
Thanks.
That's a good one. I don't know. I think I'd pick Jimmy G and Jacoby.
All right.
I just don't think Mac's good.
All right. Bet.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Speaking of stacks, it's so funny. In DU2, I just traded for Daniel Jones, and I have Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And I also have Derek Carr and Chris Olave. And I think it's so funny because I just think it's like pairing a fine wine with like with like a $5 steak. It's hilarious, dude. It's like the worst thing ever. I'm like, do I even do I want to get rid of one of these players? Or do I enjoy this stack? Like, this tastes terrible, but whatever.
Just embrace it. It all gets you drunk.
There you go. It all gets you to the same place anyway, right? So they'll
Yeah.
score me points. It'll be fun.
It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll change before the season starts anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good spot for Juju. It's better than KC, I think, for his fantasy purposes.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so. I think Juju probably leads that team in targets. So
would you trade the 111 for Juju?
I don't think so. I don't think I have to.
Okay, good. Me either. Ooh, really? You don't think so right now with him getting signed as a wide receiver one?
I don't know. I don't think you have to.
I think I'd trade a second for Juju then. I really do think that's like especially if you're contending, then you need like an extra piece. That's a good depth piece for a guy who could have some upside.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
That's most of the news. I'm sure there'll be more come next week. So this is a pretty fun week.
That was a lot, man. That was a lot. It took up a lot of the time.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk some trades, non-trades. These are mostly DU trades. So this is fun to talk about because these are our guys.
Love it.
In Dynasty Underdog Listener League number 2, we saw a trade Justin Fields and DJ Moore for Kyler Murray in the 105. Who you got?
Justin Fields, DJ Moore for Kyler Murray and the 105. So yeah, Justin Fields for me here. You know, I've eaten my crow plenty on the Justin Fields debacle that was last year in DU2 for me. But I like this a lot. Like, I think, you know, despite it being the stack Fields and DJ Moore, and maybe some feel like this is overpaying for that, I think that I've voiced my concerns pretty heavily about Kyler Murray, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd much rather have Fields than I would Murray. I think they both have similar upside. Neither has shown that they're great passers. One has had a horrific injury that could hurt his rushing ability. One still has great rushing ability and not an injury. And Ryan Pace just absolutely building a castle around him right now. So
yeah, you love to see that.
Right. So for me, it's just like, why not trade Kyler Murray for Justin Fields easy? And then, yeah, the 105 may be a little premium for DJ Moore, especially in this offense because of volume concerns. But I think it makes up, you know, with the Kyler Murray side, and DJ Moore is a fine piece. So I like that side better for me personally.
Yeah. Everything you just said, I agree with. DJ Moore for 105 straight up, I think that's a little rich. But I think if you're going from Fields to Murray, I don't know what it would be like in the, you know, keep trade cut or something like that. But like just from my own personal valuation, I think if I'm moving off of Fields to Murray, I'm going to want a little extra anyway, because I think Fields is the better asset to have. So, and one more thing quickly, I was thinking about free agency. It has nothing to do with, it was no skill position players, but Sean Payton there in Denver, immediately the first like 2 minutes of legal tampering, went out there and got like 2 guards and bolstered that offensive line for Russell Wilson. So that's just something that shouldn't go overlooked, because I know we always want to talk about the skill players, but offensive line really matters. So I think that's something to kind of think about. Russell Wilson might be having more of a Russell Wilson type year than he did last year.
I was happy to get him in the 5th in DU3. Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool. Another trade. Watson and Wan'Dale for the 106 and a 24 first.
Watson and Wan'Dale for the 106 and a 24 first. Yeah. I guess 106 and a 24 first. I guess it's pretty even. It depends on what you're trying to do. I think, like, I was trying to get Watson, and in that league, I think, I mean, maybe I would pay that. I don't know if I'd like to pay the 106. I probably like the pick side a little bit here, especially for, I know what both teams are doing here, and the pick side is kind of like rebuilding team-ish. And so I think it works for what they're doing, getting rid of Watson, but it's definitely a fair deal. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Oh, it's a fair deal. Say that 24 first falls anywhere mid or late, whatever. It's 2 firsts for Watson, and you got Wan'Dale thrown in there. So I think that's kind of going great.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Right. I mean, a guy like Watson, assuming he comes back to anywhere where he was before, is worth 2 first, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. He is. Yeah. You're right. I think the Watson side is probably the side that wins out on that. Yeah. But it's fair. Especially, like I said, for the person getting the picks, like, they're not using Watson this year. And they really want to build, I think, into 2024. So contextually, it works for them as well. I tried to grab Watson for the deal essentially that I'm about to talk about right now in that same league. So you can tell me if you would have taken which deal you would have taken. So I traded the 111 Brandon Cooks, Baker Mayfield, who just got signed to the Bucks, and Tony Pollard for Daniel Jones. And despite Baker going to the Bucks, I already knew that was going to happen. Like, we heard rumors of it. He was the last quarterback on the market. There was no doubt in my mind. So I made that trade knowing this, at least in my head, thinking that was going to happen. I just don't think he's clear-cut going to win that job. They have a lot of work to do with that offense. I'm not positive all the weapons are going to be there, so I'm not super concerned about that. But again, 111 Brandon Cooks, Baker Mayfield, Tony Pollard for Daniel Jones. This was in a league where I only had Derek Carr, really, and Baker Mayfield. Thoughts?
Maybe a slight overpay, but Daniel Jones just got his bag. He got a 4-year deal. He's going to be there for a little bit. And if he builds on what he did last year, even if he does what he did last year, you'd like to see his touchdowns go above the teens. We'll see if that ever happens. But, he's got some rushing upside there. He's just a way more stable piece to have. Like, I have to move old-ass Brandon Cooks, broken Pollard in a late first to get off of Baker to get Daniel Jones. I think that's just one of those moves you got to make and just like not look back on, because you just secured your quarterback room a whole lot better than it was looking before. And you got rid of a couple players that may not have just really see your lineup. So, and the 111 could be anything.
It's the whole boat situation, right?
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Exactly. And like, yeah, maybe I could try to hope one of the quarterbacks falls, Will Levis or something, but do I want to play the game? Nope. I'd rather I know what Daniel Jones is. I know that they're betting on him. His team is betting on him, and they're adding Waller. Maybe his touchdowns are going to go up this year. They're going to add some weapons in the receiving game. I think they're going to help him out a little bit, and another year in the system. Let's hope we can see a bargain brand Josh Allen jump. I don't believe that I don't believe anybody can do that because Josh Allen's a freak of nature, but I think that there is something to Daboll knowing what he's doing and helping the players reach their potential, right?
Absolutely.
And every player's potential is different. Josh Allen's potential, we've seen what that is. Yes. Daniel Jones' potential is not that, but he has some potential that I don't think has been unlocked yet, and I'm kind of buying into that. And like you said, it is a slight overpay, but the way you said it is exactly like, I'm just not going to really look back on it. I have enough assets. Otherwise, I don't need to think about it like that. I just needed to do it.
Yep.
I tried to send this for Watson. I tried to send this for everybody, literally everybody. And I understand why he took the other deal. I think the other deal is much better than this one as far as like liquid assets are concerned and valuable assets.
Cool. All right. What do you got for us?
Oh, okay. So this is just something quick I was thinking about. It's just kind of, since we're doing the prospect profiles, and I was thinking back to a prospect profile we did last year and how we were ahead of the crowd, ahead of consensus, I think, if I remember correctly, on Chris Olave, right? And this is kind of, I'm just kind of talking about like the way I play Dynasty and the way that I evaluate these players and how I kind of implement that in how I'm playing the game. So Olave is a guy who we were way higher than consensus on. I remember we were like, we loved his film. We loved everything, but we're like, oh, late declare, but we're kind of overlooking that, like whatever. And most people were not. And that's why he was a valuable piece in rookie drafts and kind of ascended, right? There was a lot of room for him to ascend. But I think the ascension went to a place where I wasn't too comfortable with, even in my evaluation, which was that he's not a wide receiver one, in my opinion, right? Now he can produce really well. Maybe a wide receiver, maybe he does end up being a wide receiver one for fantasy, like a top 12 guy in production wise, but I don't think he's like a true team wide receiver one guy, right? And I keep saying that. And I think my point here is that our evaluations, at least, I think we're pretty consistent. Like my evaluation holds over, right? And like, I've always thought that, and I'm going to think that all the way through. And that's kind of the way I play it. Like we were super high on him, and you would think that we'd stay high on him, right? And for me, I just got a little lower on him than the community. You know what I mean? Like I still think he's a great player, but my evaluation holds. And I think that, it's just kind of, because like I think people can look at the way we evaluate these guys and say like, you guys were so high on Olave and now you're saying something different. But I think you have to look at it in the context of the situation. They just signed MT back, right? They just restructured MT. Like he's not getting the straight lion's share he's never going to. I think they're always going to add other guys, and it's not going to be just him, right? Yeah. His rookie season was an anomaly based on the way that they were playing. So I just I think that it's a good case study in kind of how we evaluate players and kind of how their trajectory changes when they go to the NFL, and their market value changes based on the perception of who they are because of certain things that they've done. He had a historic rookie season. If he didn't, we wouldn't be talking about him at all like that, right? He's smaller. There's a lot of things that typically we would kind of knock him for if it wasn't for the fact that he just way outperformed our expectations, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. This was just something I was thinking about. Maybe it doesn't make sense, and now I'm just rambling. But it was kind of something I was thinking about, and how I play the game, and how my evaluations hold. But also, like, we were higher, and I'll become lower than the market because the market just kind of freaks out.
Yeah, I get that. Like, not letting the performance. I mean, to a certain extent, you kind of have to let a performance like dictate like how you feel about a player a year later. Someone like Sky Moore, like clearly I'm lower on Sky Moore now than I was last year. This time last year, still really high on him. I was probably higher on him than most people, but after seeing what he did, like I have to kind of adjust that. And I think it got to the point where Olave had elevated himself so much that like it got past the point of your confidence in what he's going to be going into the future. Obviously, you think that he's a really good player, but you're going to stand your ground on the fact that you don't think he's ever going to be a true number one on that team, and that's perfectly fine. I think being quote unquote right to begin with, and then just kind of changing. I think you'll see that you're going to be right on him throughout his career.
Well, that's the other thing is like I think it's like also not getting hung up on the evaluation of like being right, that like you were in on this guy and like he's your player. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like I was in on him and I know, but like, and this is kind of, I think this might be what I'm trying to get at is like that, like I don't let that happen. I don't like I have my evaluation, love him, great evaluation, great guy. And then I got to kind of separate it from what's actually happening. You know what I mean? And that evaluation kind of has to hold in a way. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Who knows? We'll get there eventually. We'll see. Let's get into the next prospect profile.
This next prospect profile is kind of will be a perfect test to see how this goes.
Yeah.
All right,
that's why I want to talk about it.
We're going to talk about prospect profile Charlie Jones, wide receiver. Is that Purdue?
The retirement home in Purdue. Is that what it was?
Is that what it is? Purdue?
Yeah, I think it was. Wait, no, we got to make sure. Let's not, come on.
I mean, it's not. Look, I mean, everybody.
Yes, Purdue. Yes, it is Purdue. Wait. Everybody loved David Bell. Everybody loved David Bell out of Purdue. All right, so let's not knock Purdue for anything.
I think. Oh man, we got to talk about Kayshon Boutte. I feel like he's going to be next David Bell. But anyway.
Eventually, yeah, probably. Yeah.
I still like David Bell. Let it be known. Okay, so Charlie Jones, you guys have probably never heard of him.
Would you send me a late second for David Bell?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I have to. I'll give you like an early third for him though.
All right, I think I have him. Let's see that.
Let's see if I have.
Let's test that.
Something.
All right, cool.
And so, anyways, yeah, prospect profile: Charlie Jones, wide receiver, Purdue, 87 years old.
But 87 years old,
which is really surprising. At that age, he could go to the combine and run a 4.4. So he ran a 4.43. Really good. I'll admit, I did watch some film, and he actually looks really good. He was making some cornerbacks look silly, but I'm gonna let you do your part on that because the sheets aren't great. But
from Century Village University, Charlie Jones.
Yeah, PPR per game, it's 24.5, puts him top of the class, which is insane. But that didn't happen until it's year 23 season or 24 season. He's old. Receiving yards per team pass attempt, good stat, 2.3. That puts him very squarely top third of the class, which is awesome. Average dominator is 42.7, puts him at the very top of the class. But again, that happened when he was old. He was turning gray. That's his final year in college. And then a new one I'm gonna look at for these kind of guys that like just don't have a breakout age, or the breakout age starts with a 2. I'm gonna look at their EPA because I don't know if you follow this guy. He's not everyone's cup of tea. He's not for everyone. But Fuzu Vu, it goes by like Debbie Youssef. He's kind of a prick, but he's pretty good at picking out wide receivers. And he was talking about how EPA is a good way to kind of navigate around the breakout age conundrum we go through all the time. We were just talking about Chris Olave and how, man, I would have liked him a whole lot better. Like all of the spreadsheet nerds would have liked him a whole lot better if he had come out a year before. But the fact is he was good, and he was good his whole career. He just stayed in college a year longer. This is not quite the same case with Charlie Jones because Charlie Jones wasn't always good. He was just like really, really, really good his last season, according to the sheets. So I like the guy, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where he gets drafted. I'm not out on him, but I'm not like excited about him. You tell me what you see on film, though.
I mean, he did show out at the combine, so I think
Yes.
he put some NFL teams on notice. I think he definitely is more like a day 2, 3-ish guy, but you're hoping you're hoping either day 2 or at the beginning of day 3, and that he goes somewhere that they need a possession type guy that can, work in there. So it's definitely going to be very landing spot dependent with him, no matter what, and draft capital dependent. But this is a guy who I don't think it's necessarily a fluke. Like, he caught a school record 1,361 yards for Purdue. And I'm just I need to do a little bit more research. I was trying to just look at it quick here, but realizing that he played for Buffalo, Iowa, and only played for Purdue his final season, what those offenses were like, what the reasons were that he wasn't playing, and all the different things that go into that. He was only a punt returner at some other schools. There's just a lot that I think, context does matter sometimes. It just does. And obviously the sheets don't care, and the odds don't care. Like, the odds are against the guy. The odds are against the guy. But I think what I'm going to talk about with the film is pretty exciting with Charlie Jones. So let me get into it here real quick. I didn't separate everything the way I wanted to, but okay. So off rip, just starting from the top, from his release, I think he shows great suddenness at the release, really quick feet, great acceleration from the release through the route, acceleration upfield. You can see he just stops on a dime on a dig, or, if he's trying to fake, he's just really, really good start-stop ability, maintains speed through the route, and gets on defenders' toes fast. So right off of the release, he's trying to get on their toes. He's trying to push them to either the sideline or inside, depending on where he wants to go. So he's really kind of running routes with intent, which is something you love to see with these guys, right? Refined coming into the league. I think he has great hands. The guy catches everything. I didn't see a drop on, the hour plus of tape I watched on this guy. Comes back to the ball at the catch point, fights through contact during the route. Refined route runner, like I said, uses head fakes, and just really sharp in and out of the cut at the stem. I do think that, he's a little bit smaller. So you see, like, even though I say he fights through contact during the route, which he does struggle sometimes with physical press. You could see issues or struggles with downfield contested catches as well. Even though he's a really, really good receiver, you can see guys beat him up a little bit in those situations. He has really good field awareness, though, so he can find spaces and zones to sit in and kind of avoid some of the issues I'm talking about. Just getting a little bit more into the details here. I think he separates with his route running, right? So just speaking to his separation, I think he does that with route running and leverage, and he leverages space to get open. He does have some yak ability, but again, due to kind of size and just the style of receiver he can be taken down fairly easily. So I don't think he has like game breaking, elusiveness or anything like that. But he showed some great reps against Penn State, showing routes to the sideline with, leaning his head and just jump cuts to the inside. These are some things that you just love to see that are really technical route running details in guys coming out of college, because it's just stuff that the NFL wants to see that they would have to teach guys, and they just don't with him. Lastly here, so you do see some burst, but I think or at least most of his speed is all before the catch, right? It's like all within the route. So he bursts through his route and his release, but mostly average burst just overall. So that's not something I graded him very highly on. I wouldn't describe him as elusive, not the best change of direction after the catch, but good through the route. So everything with him is very technical. I think with Charlie Jones, it's all about route running, getting open before, the catch, nothing really, or getting open in general, right? Getting open. But it's not really about after the catch with Charlie Jones from what I can tell. But this is a wide receiver that the NFL that a quarterback will love, right? He's a guy who gets open and catches the ball every time. So I think that's really valuable in the NFL, and they're gonna notice him.
Kind of like a Emmanuel Sanders type.
Yeah, obviously Emmanuel Sanders, I think, was a little more elusive after the catch, for sure. Yeah. A little more dynamic, right? Charlie Jones, I just wouldn't describe him as elusive or dynamic. He's just super technically sound, and he's always open to catch the ball, like, short, mid, intermediate, and sometimes long, but short, intermediate are definitely where he plays the best. But you can just see that he has a really good feel for the field, right? He knows kind of where to sit down and get open. He knows kind of how to use leverage against his defender, and he just plays the game really smart. And I mean, the guys like Belichick and those kind of minds in the NFL are going to look at this guy. I'm not saying he's going to the Patriots, but they're going to look at him and be like,
well, he is white.
Yeah. So he could, but they're going to look at him and say, we can use this guy for sure, and he can produce in an NFL offense. So I will not be surprised. Like Romeo Doubs last year got 4th round draft capital. That's the kind of area I think this guy is in, where he could get that kind of draft capital, and I'd be like, oh, nice. Like that works. Anything higher than that's just like ridiculous and awesome. Anything lower than that, little concerned.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, excited. Like his path in college is a little murky, and maybe we should dig into that a little bit more and figure out the whys. But yeah, I like it.
I like when we find guys like Charlie Jones, dude.
I know. I was thinking that you're like the first person that ever mentioned him to me. So
it's so funny because like I really did it, and I'm sure other people, maybe, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but he's at Purdue. Other people hadn't noticed, but I haven't heard of him. And when I saw him at the combine, the way that he was running and catching the ball, I was like, this guy can play football. Like 100% he can play the receiver position. So I need to go see what he's been doing and why I haven't heard about him. And then I was just like, we're sleeping on this guy for sure. So yeah, I like Charlie Jones. I love finding these guys. It's kind of what's really fun about the process is just running into like, holy crap, this guy can play and nobody's talking about him. He's going to be in the league, and it's just fun to be in on them and advocate for them,
I like that. I made a tweet about him after I looked at the sheets and watched a little bit of film on him, and was talking about how, if I just ignore anything that's in a box or on a spreadsheet and I watch Charlie, I think he's going to be really good. And I think of Matt Hicks, you should be familiar with. He liked the tweet.
He liked my tweet too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're on
Charlie Jones
there.
fan, Matt Hicks.
I mean, that's cool. He's a very smart guy. We should have him on sometime. But
yeah, I'm sure he'd come on.
Yeah. Cool, man. That was awesome.
I can do the reach out. I'll reach out. Let's do it. Let's get Matt Hicks on. That'd be fun.
Hell yeah.
Don't we have a guest next week, right?
He's going to be out of town next week. So we're going to schedule him for the week after, and that's going to be David Wilsley. We've had him on here before. He has the running back prospect comparison model. Just want to bring him on, I guess, in 2 weeks and just kind of talk about some of his favorite running backs in this class and see what he thinks about potential landing spots. I know that his model is pretty good at predicting draft capital, and he's just a good guy to have on as a guest. So yeah, 2 weeks from now.
Sweet. Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool.
I love what he does, man. So it'll be cool. We've had him on before. Well, it'll be a fun time to catch up.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
Join the Discord.
Discord. It's fun. It's been really fun during free agency. So
it's a blast.
I think I've spent more time on there than Twitter.
I know it's so funny. I switched like all of my communications almost over to Discord from Twitter. So yeah, it's been nice. It's much better place to be.
Much better.
It's much less toxic. Let's go with that.
All right. Thanks everyone for giving us a listen. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, me at Uriah Dawkins, Billy at Willie Beeman TFF, and our buddy Josh at Josh M Goldberg 92. And have a good night.
Peace out, fam.
Peace out.